Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Three Donkeys podcast. My name is Adam Levitan. I'm one of the donkeys here at Fantasy Labs. I am joined by two fellow dolts, Peter Jennings and Jonathan Bales. Peter, aka COC Ram 88, what's going on, brother?
I'll just cry myself to sleep last night after the Broncos got embarrassed. Fowler crushed my fantasy hopes. Doing good, though. I played some basketball today. Didn't break my finger, which I feel fortunate to after seeing what happened with you. Mm-hmm. And other than that, yeah, just kind of grinding this four-game NBA slate and hoping to get one bet right. 1 and 2 is my aspiration today.
Yeah, we will have the results of the sports bets later, but Peter was once again 0 and 3. Bales, what's going on?
Not much, man. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Just got back from a wild night of trick-or-treating. I dressed up as Jerry. My son dressed up as Jerry, and Jerry dressed up as herself. So we had a wild time out there.
Are you serious? Do you have photos of this?
Yeah, I'll post it.
Okay.
All three of you?
Yeah, all three of us. So yeah, it's crazy out there. I mean, there's so many kids in my neighborhood. It's just like an avalanche of kids everywhere. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Do most people in Philly answer their doors?
So in certain neighborhoods, yeah, everybody's just outside hanging out. Like they have like wine they're giving out to the adults, and there's like people dressed up. It's like a whole scene down here, man. I know up there in Hipsterville, up in Northern Liberties, they don't really do that kind of stuff. It's more of like murders and stuff like that. But down here, it's a family environment.
I'm not too far into Kensington, buddy. We're in the nice area here.
Speaking of Philadelphia and Pennsylvania, we will talk later in this episode about the big news in Pennsylvania, which is very exciting, I think, to all of us. So we'll talk about that soon. But I think what we need to talk about first is me winning the 4-man. It might be my first, or 3-man, I'm sorry. Might be my first.
I won the 4-man, by the way, though.
Yeah. Peter's putting in different teams to all these different things, so he guarantees himself to win one.
No. I just messed it up. I actually screwed it up this time because I entered the Donkeys League last, and it's like so hard to figure out which teams.
I know.
It's a mess.
Yeah, I think a big improvement DraftKings can make is actually allowing you to name your lineup so that this can be like, hey, this is my 3-man team. This is my head-to-head team. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah, that would be huge. I do that on Labs, actually. We let people edit it. Not a lot of people know that, actually. Maybe we should make it more obvious, but yeah.
All right, tell them how. Go ahead.
I mean, you just click on the name and edit it. It's super simple, but not very obvious. Maybe we should make it look more like a link type of thing,
But the problem is that once it gets on DraftKings, then the name is no longer there. So once, you know what I mean? Like if it's Sunday at 11 a.m. and all your teams are already on DraftKings, they're no longer on Labs, then the name is gone, right?
That's right. But this week we're meeting and we'll have a cool solution for a lot of those things. So
all right,
that'll be maybe a month away.
Sweet. So, so I won the 3-man, I believe, on that last Dallas defensive touchdown, which was absurd. I ended up winning by like 1 point. So I assume that last Dallas touchdown put me over the edge. I believe it's my first win. How'd you guys do in DFS? Bales, how'd you do in DFS overall this week?
I was near, it was like a nothing sort of week. I had like, it was just very up and down in terms of my selection. My biggest exposure by far was Robbie Anderson. And then my second on FanDuel at least was Paul Richardson. So you should crush, right? Like low owned and those guys go off and just had a bunch of other guys that were nothing and killed the lineup. And it did show me that, sometimes if you have too many of those guys, it's very unlikely that they all go off. Right? Like too many 3 to 5% owned guys or whatever. And you just like give yourself really no chance. So I think that I was probably too contrarian this week, where I actually had a really good week in terms of what I would say like projecting on-field performance and had poor lineup construction. And I think that usually I rely on the lineup construction over like trying to out-predict people.
Talk about Robbie for a second, because he definitely crossed my mind, but the weather situation kind of scared me off. And I think if you're playing a lot of GPPs, capitalize on the weather by playing guys in these weather games probably makes sense. Did that come into play at all for you?
Yeah, that was part of it. It was also the main weather concern there was the rain and not as much the wind. It was windy, but I think it was only supposed to be like 12, like steady 12 miles per hour, which like isn't a complete killer. Whereas like I mostly not completely, but very close, faded the Bucks and Panthers game because of the wind, which I think was much worse. So yeah, that was what I was looking at there. And then there were a variety of other things where I thought that the Jets probably weren't passing the ball as much as they should have, given game script, and Robbie Anderson wasn't getting the ball in certain situations where he was just like on the wrong side of variance and like 8 different things that I track. So it was mainly that. Not that I had like a super great feeling about Robbie Anderson per se, but more that I just thought he was going to be underowned.
Yeah, hashtag team preseason. Robbie Anderson, one of the founding members. I mean, dude absolutely thrashed the preseason 2 years ago. It was unbelievable. Peter, how did your week go? How was the action out there in the streets at the Nosebleed Stakes?
Streets action was pretty solid. I had a good weekend. I thought was going to be great. On FD, I lost to Papa Gates by 0.2 to get second in a bunch of queues, and the top 3 guys in the 1590 we were all within 0.4. So I had a bunch of Russell Wilson, Hopkins, Richardson stacks, which paid dividends, but yeah, didn't have enough Hopkins. That last touchdown was really painful, and also was pretty much all in on AJ Green, which we need a little bit more out of him. So overall, solid week. Made a huge mistake, probably one of my biggest mistakes all year. I feel like I've made more mistakes this year than I did in years past, but I started Ross on DraftKings in some spots, and that felt really dumb, especially given his snap count. So
yeah, I know a lot of people got burned by that. I actually feel bad. There was an ESPN article from their beat reporter saying that John Ross was expected to play significant snaps, and like I passed that along on Twitter, even though I didn't really believe it. And right afterwards, I tweeted that like this dude's only played 5 snaps all year, and Marvin Lewis hates to play rookies, so I thought it was really thin. But I initially did pass along that article from ESPN.
I saw one other thing too. I had one other data point that suggested that he was going to play at least a good bit, and I just thought the upside for him was worth it at 3,200. That other receiver, I mean, the funny thing is my other cash game team, I ran Goodwin, so it wasn't like right. Goodwin and him both put up zeros. I think Goodwin was a far better play, though.
Right. Yeah, John Ross ended up playing just 6 snaps. Also,
right. Shout out to Cubs fan 333, won the Millie and second this week. He also benefited from the crazy pick 6 at the end of the Cowboys game, but he uses Fantasy Labs, uses a variety of things in DFS. He's a big player, but he's a friend of mine, and he emailed me randomly like 4 years ago or something in the beginning of DFS, and we became friends, and to win the Millie on a pick 6 is pretty crazy. So there's a good story on ESPN.com about his sweat from David Purdom.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw he mentioned the ownership projection. Shout out to me. I also saw Max Steinberg won a Q and mentioned the ownership projection. Shout out to me again. Hashtag all about me. Okay.
Seriously, big shout out to Levitan. Levitan's ownership projections are so good. If you go back and look at those things, like it's incredible. I don't even know how you're doing that, but it's really amazing.
I have the pulse of the community on my fingertips. That's the bottom line.
Here, I'll give you guys a secret here. Let me tell you how Levitan projects ownership so well. Levitan is the fucking king of the DFS industry. Everyone listens to him. I mean, if you're not listening to him, you're a total donkey. So it's easy. I mean, Levitan can make one tweet, a little tinker on the ownership. Levitan makes another tweet, another tinker on the ownership. So I see you, kid. I see you working the whole thing.
Right.
Puppet master over there.
One guy I was massively off on for ownership this week that I noticed. I think I had Joe Mixon at like 17 to 20 on DraftKings maybe, and he ended up like massively and I guess I should have realized a guy with the potential for 20 touches at 4,700 in the context of this slate, but like people just didn't see like the paths to him failing, and if he didn't catch that screen pass, he would have been a massive fail. So if I knew that Joe Mixon was going to be like 35%, I mean, he is such an easy fade in GPPs, given the way that he's being used and also given the way their offensive line is playing, which is just total disaster. Like as a team, they're 30th in yards per carry, and Mixon is averaging like 2.9 yards per carry. So he's someone I'd be careful with going forward, just if he's going to be super high owned. I know his price didn't come up a lot.
He was much higher owned, like a lot of quality plays at higher stakes. So he's really high in I think it was like over 40% in the 1K. How do you like try to sort of balance talking with other pros and like sort of, in our own little bubble, which is ultimately not that many of the entries in something like the Millionaire Maker, even from pros, versus like, ESPN and beat reporters and trying to predict those things. Like how do you get outside of our bubble?
Yeah, I think you're underestimating what percent of the field listens to somebody, right? Either talks to like one of the sites out there, watches one of the shows out there. And like, let's be honest, a lot of the shows are talking about a lot of the same guys. So like, if there's nothing pushing back on a guy, that's when you see it get out of control. You can't say anything bad about his price. You can't say anything bad about his usage. You can't say anything bad about his matchup. Then nobody out there say anything bad about him. Then his ownership's going to get out of control. And I think, AJ Green is an example of that this past week. So yeah, it can be difficult at times, but like we see hardcore plays getting massive ownership. I mean, George Kittle was like 18% 2 weeks ago. And like Peter's going to say that's because of me and the shower.
Oh, yes. The shower game. That actually I was giving you shit. I mean, you do an amazing job. You're on the pulse. I think you're paying attention to the guys who are influencers. You've been around the space too forever, and I think that also is really important. But yeah, the Kittles. I mean, there's plenty of examples where Levitan gets like really high on a couple guys, and everyone jams him in, including me. If you're gonna fan Levitan take, it's a pretty bad move in my opinion.
So I wasn't the only one talking about George Kittle, right? A lot of people were on George Kittle and Showergate. But, yeah, I think it definitely contributed. I mean, George Kittle should never be like 15% owned or something like that, right? Like, that's pretty insane. So I think our bubble is actually bigger than you think. You know what I mean, Bales?
No, I agree with that. But it's still, like, what percentage do you think? If you say nothing about him, what percentage do you think he is?
Me or everybody?
Just you. You say nothing about him.
Oh, I don't know. Like I talked a lot about Jeremy Maclin that 1 week when he was a total donkey play, and he was only like 4%.
Yeah.
I think people are a sucker for the narrative too, and then like also, I mean, there's certain things that are correlations. One thing we haven't talked about that drives ownership that I'm sure Levitan really thinks a lot about is the lines, and the lines are a huge, especially as people have gotten better at DFS. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, the ownership projections are awesome. Shout out to Cubs fan, that was sweet. Yeah. Papa Gates, shout out to them and Chipotle. Papa Gates beat by 0.2 and like everything, but those guys had unbelievable weekend. Pretty incredible what they're doing. And the one nice thing that when you see them winning all the money, they've done a lot for charity. So I guess even though they're depleting the ecosystem at a massive rate, money's going to charity. That's good.
Yeah, they're really, really good.
They won the 1,500 in NBA yesterday too. Did you know that?
Oh my God, I did not know that. No.
Yeah, like literally winning everything all the time.
Yeah. Like not only winning GPPs like we've seen some people do, not only crushing cash like we've seen people do, not only winning in NBA like we've seen something do, like winning every sport, every format, 3 hands, head-to-head.
And in the afternoon only, there was like a 500 or 1K like winner take all with 8 people. I put up 205 on DraftKings. What'd I get? Second place, losing first, Chipotle addict. I mean, it's just like the score is such an outlier. It's just like crazy. I mean, it's unbelievable. They're grinding all the slates. They definitely are the king of the slates right now.
I just talked to Peter about that yesterday. Just I don't know how it came up, but just how incredible Papa and Chipotle are at every sport. They're so different. Like they're just so different. Usually, someone is an ace at one sport, maybe 2 sports that are similar. But to be amazing at like NBA and NFL, which are very, very different, is incredible.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to this pumpkin thing. It is Halloween. I believe it is time to crown some winners. So, Bales, if people weren't paying attention, why don't you give them the parameters of the contest and what has happened here?
Yeah, so I got a pumpkin a little while ago. maybe 2 weeks ago, and I was thinking about what to carve inside of it. At first, I was going to do a dick, and I did something very similar, which was the Fantasy Labs beaker. So it was more or less a dick, and then I posted it on Twitter and made a challenge for anyone who wanted to do a jack-o'-lantern with either the Labs or Action Network logo in. We'd give the top two a free sub to Labs for a year. So we got, I don't know, maybe 30 submissions or something like that. It was pretty good, given the time that goes into carving a pumpkin.
Okay, and how many winners are we actually going to crown today? And do we have examples, or where are we going to post the winning photos?
I mean, I guess we'll do a post on the site, right?
This is your calling right here, buddy. No joke. You got to do some epic post with all the pictures. This is Bale's calling right
We got one picture of like a doggy style sexual position with like Labs beakers. You got to get that one in there.
I'm expecting multiple pictures, like a ton of pictures and analysis of each pumpkin from Bales. That's what I'm expecting.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. But and there will be no analysis on this particular pumpkin. But shout out Daniel Savage, who did the
Savage pumpkin.
I'll refer to it as a wobbly H. And I
never heard that one, a wobbly H.
A very, very great attention to detail there.
Can we highlight they're also the wobbly H, the vertical part of the H, the two vertical parts there are holding beakers.
Right.
Yeah, holding beakers. They also, well, at least one of them looks like pretty, he's like very good genetics, I'll say. Yeah, so Daniel will win something. We'll give him something for that. But otherwise, yeah, I might pick some other winners because people did such a good job. There were so many awesome submissions to this, so we'll give people something. But the two that we have chosen to win the annual subscription are Lincoln DFS, who I believe did the one with the guy sort of like drinking the beaker. It's amazing. And then the second is J Rogers 617. And I'm blanking on what he did right now, but it was very good.
Okay. I actually, Lincoln DFS sounds familiar. I believe he tweets at me a lot, so I'm glad that he won one of them. And Jay Rogers sounds familiar too. So shout out to both of them. I'm sure they were awesome. I can't wait to see Bale's post with full analysis of the winners so that we can admire them. And they won a full year subscription, each of them a full year, right?
Yep, full year. So I don't know if they're Labs members currently, but they will be for the next year. And thank you for everyone who did that. I mean, it's if you've ever tried to carve like a very intricate pumpkin, it's very, very difficult.
All right. Congrats to those guys. I want to move on to the mile race that me and Bales got suckered into. So as you guys know, we've been going back and forth with this mile race, and it was just going to be me and Bales. We were going to do it in Philly. It wasn't going to be a big deal. We were just going to train, as much as we could, considering it's NFL, considering, Bales is merging from CEO to regular employee. We both have a lot going on right now. It's not optimal timing to run a mile. But of course, while Brandon Adams was here for King of the Hill, we went to dinner with him, and somehow we got talked into agreeing to run a mile in Miami in mid-December, which is about 6 weeks away. I am pretty sure that me and Bales are both drawing dead at this point, which is kind of disheartening. But I kind of think Peter is partly to blame here. He is our contact with Brandon, or at least mine, and he knows that Brandon is a professional at a lot of things. He kind of strikes me as like a Renaissance man. Like, he's good at everything, and I assume he's going to be very good at running. His argument was he's 39 years old. I'm 35. Bales is 33 or 32 or something like that. So maybe that's a little bit of an edge to us on the younger side, but I don't think it's enough to overcome Brandon, and I think how much more free time he has and perhaps more motivation than us. What do you think, Peter?
I mean, this is a very interesting thing. I think there's a lot of solutions here as well. We're talking a little bit pre-pod. Bales is already thrown in the towel. Classic move. We know he's going to come up with some mental strategy. He's going to sprint the second lap or something. He's going to try some mental edge.
I guarantee you, I have a unique run come December in Miami.
I told BA that was your strategy last time, Bales, and he's like, "Oh, everyone knows that's the worst strategy you could possibly."
We talked about it last week. He doesn't get it. Like if you're a huge dog, right? Like I was never going to beat Levitan. I'm not that he's only right that you don't do that if you're trying to run your fastest time, which I wasn't. I was trying to make Levitan run his slowest time. Very different. And I will come back with that strategy again, perhaps.
Okay.
I am not throwing in the towel. I'm not giving up. I'm going to train for this. I'm feeling a little bit under the weather right now, so it's not good. But
Brandon is not exactly the one who has all. I mean, obviously we're all grinding here, but Brandon, I mean, the guy's traveling around the world playing poker tournaments.
Right.
Was a Harvard professor, stock market. I mean, the guy is an animal.
From a financial perspective, I certainly have the most motivation. I would assume that Bales has the second.
How much? What's the unit size with you guys for BA?
So all of us are betting 2,500, but Bales gets 2-1 from both me and BA if he wins. So Bales can win 10K, and then me and Bales have another 1,500 on the side. Just me versus him heads up at 2-1, 1,500 versus 3K.
Wow. I mean, you guys are getting it in terms of motivation. I mean, that's like not even half a unit for BA, it seems
right.
Like.
However, I think he's motivated by like people are talking about this, people are voting. It's going to be, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's more motivating to him than it is.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And the one thing that's great about BA, he's done a lot of these props, and his props in general are around motivation to work out. I mean, that's, I think, why he loves the tennis so much. And he definitely loves doing kind of what we like doing, is using something like this to motivate yourself, to push yourself to the max. And that's obviously the best part. But yeah, I will. Here's what I'd throw out. You guys should have a little side action just versus each other. And I'm willing to give odds. I'll take Brandon. I'll give, if either of you want additional incentive, I will give you odds.
You give me 3-1 against Brandon?
I'll give you 2.5 to 1.
Nah, I can't do it. I'm already standing to lose so much money, and not so much, but if let's put it this way: if Bales
I'll
wins,
give you 3-1 on a small amount if you want.
So then I get 6-1.
Now we're getting into danger territory. 6-1 might get Bales. Might get him a little extra motivated.
I'll give. If you give me 500 at 3-1 just for fun.
Okay, done all day. You got it.
I'll do an additional 2K at 6-1.
No, I'm not going to do that. We'll Bales. We were talking earlier pre-pod too about Ross, how bad of a play that was, and I mentioned your end's like a 4.240, which is slower than Bales. So you got to
yes.
keep in mind the ceiling for Bales here if he trains.
If we can convince Brandon to cut down on the length of the race, then yeah, I'm a huge favorite.
Not just a huge favorite. You're a mortal lock, buddy.
I'll do 1K 6-1.
Let me think about it. I'm going to get back to you, Bales.
All right,
Peter, are you coming to Miami?
I'm going to try. I mean, dude, boys, you want to hear about Team Degenerate over here? I played the 6K queue on DraftKings specifically to get to Miami. I was holding strong, not playing the queues too much, and now I'm all in for the next stretch of time. All in, boys.
If you don't get a seat, are you going to come or no?
I mean, it's going to be a walk of shame, but yeah, I'm going to try. I'm going to come.
All right.
Of course he's going to be there. Of course he's going to be there.
Yeah.
We can do other bets too while we're there. We should set up some other stuff.
Yeah, the whole issue why I actually tried to push it back, but Brandon was having none of it, was because I have a wedding in New York on that Saturday night, so I've got to go. I got to leave Miami early on Saturday, which really sucks. But yeah, I'm down for other bets too. Hope my finger should be completely better by then. Actually saw the doctor today. Said it's looking really good. 2 more weeks, I should be able to get this thing off. So that's exciting.
That's good news. No more surgery. I mean, that's really good.
So the whole idea of this casting was that if I wear it for long enough and don't mess with it, that I won't need surgery. If you like take it off, if you mess with it, then you end up needing surgery. So yeah, I think it's going well.
All right. Well, racquetball, we got to do. I've been playing more and more racquetball, so I want to get out there with you boys.
All right, cool. Speaking of things going well, Bitcoin, I have no idea why, but I actually saw a dip down to like 5,200 last week. Was able to buy a little bit at that price, and now it's like 6,300. Bales, do you have any idea why we've seen this little run with Bitcoin back up over 6K and like 6,300 now, I believe?
No.
I know why. What's the laugh over there?
I guess just my answer. I don't know why. I have no clue, man. You know why?
Well, yeah, I mean, on the Wall Street Journal, I think this is a huge part of it. Bitcoin is definitely moving towards mainstream commodities and futures trading. It's poised to join oil and gold in futures trading, according to the Wall Street Journal. And this has kind of been speculated on before, but this could be massive for the currency, with people being able to speculate on it even easier than they are now.
Wait, hold on. Explain that for people who don't know about trading. Where will you be able to speculate on Bitcoin futures?
I believe in the stock market, like the U.S. stock market.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what the way I understand it. I could be totally wrong. Here
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that
hold on. Stupid Wall Street Journal has the freaking passcode. I'm trying to sign back in here. Yeah, there's firms here. I remember reading that. It starts with a C here. 1 second. CME is planned to bring Bitcoin to the futures market, offers a stamp of approval from a financial giant in time of the digital currency. In order to say it's gaining respectability. It is a legitimization of Bitcoin as an asset class, said Daniel Myers, chairman of the Global Advisors Group of Companies, which runs a Bitcoin hedge fund and exchange-traded notes like linked to digital currencies.
Yeah, I saw that as well. There's always stuff that's coming out about Bitcoin, like positive and negative. I didn't think that influenced it, like.
No, but if it's a futures thing that people can trade without owning it, that is massive for like the volume of the trades that can go on. I mean, all the other thing that's really interesting is I believe this will open up the opportunity to short it, which obviously there's subtle ways you can do it now. I'm not too familiar with it. I know we've kind of talked about it, but from the way I understand it, and this is what it says, futures allow long investors who think the price of the commodity will rise to match their bets against shorts who expect the price to drop. And then it says introducing Bitcoin futures could help smooth out some of Bitcoin's wild price swings, traders say, because it would give Bitcoin pessimists more opportunity to express their views in the marketplace. So that's a really interesting aspect to me, in my opinion.
I mean, mostly when you own Bitcoin now, you're in the futures market, right? Like you're not buying Bitcoin because of the volume that it's doing.
No, that's the most direct way to do it. But I mean, again, in this specific circumstance now, there's a really easy way to short it too. I think the big reason that it's moving the price is it just legitimizes it more.
Yeah, that's my whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, my biggest fear is one day we're going to wake up and the U.S. government's going to be like, "Hey, it's illegal to own Bitcoin. It's illegal to trade on an exchange, cryptocurrency." You know what I mean? So, like, I would be shocked if the government allowed Bitcoin to get onto a trading exchange, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is like this is the speculation. What it says is like Bitcoin futures could also become the basis for an ETF linked to the digital currency in much the same way that the United States Oil Fund, the world's largest crude oil ETF, is built out of oil futures rather than physical barrels of oil. So that comes to fruition. I mean, that is a huge deal.
Right. It's all interesting. It's so funny, you know. Like I don't claim to be any kind of like Bitcoin expert whatsoever. I've maybe like watched like 4 hours of YouTube videos on it and like read a little bit. And I think mostly it's just people like me that are like, hey, I see a lot of smart people that I respect being like Bitcoin is going to go up. Bitcoin is a worthy investment. And I'm like, okay, let me buy it. You know what I mean? It's like, I think that's what's moving the price more than anything as it goes more and more mainstream, which certainly, not because of the utility, So I think it's all that kind of stuff, fear of missing out and just like smart people talking about it. You know what I mean?
FOMO is definitely driving it in a big way. That's for sure. And again, we're not as knowledgeable as tons of other people around the space, but I do think that the Wall Street Journal and this kind of speculation has been very good for the price today.
All right. Speaking of very good news, me and Bales both live in the state of Pennsylvania. This past week, Governor Wolf signed a bill that got through the state legislature, legalizing officially DFS, legalizing officially online poker, providing the parameters for legalization of sports betting if and when that becomes legal. So, I mean, this is pretty huge. Pennsylvania is a big state. It's a huge state, and Philadelphia and Pittsburgh have a ton of people in them. So I think it's pretty amazing, and especially the sports betting thing. Obviously, I don't think we're spilling any secrets here saying that one of the reasons that we wanted to do the deal that we did was to have exposure to sports betting. So, Bales, we live here in Pennsylvania. How excited are you about the bill getting through and signed?
Yeah, obviously very excited. I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head with one of the major reasons that we did the deal is we want exposure to sports betting and all forms of sports speculation. And I think Chernin shares that vision. And there's pretty much I think a wide range of outcomes in terms of when, not if, betting becomes legalized. But there's one potential path that I think is much quicker than people think, where it's not like a 5-year thing or even maybe a 3-year thing where people can regularly bet online on sports in the United States. And this is a big step, I think.
Peter State, Colorado does have legal DFS. Peter, is there anything on the sports betting front in Colorado?
I mean, I don't know anything specific about the sports betting side of things. Obviously, the DFS is really good, and Colorado has been pretty liberal with other laws that we've been kind of on the forefront for. So I do think that Colorado would be in a pretty good position. I mean, the Pennsylvania news is fantastic. I mean, I think we'll see more and more stuff like this, and I hope we continue to see more states take a look at this issue. And, I think this New Jersey, the Supreme Court thing is obviously huge, but I mean, it's obviously great news. This is what we're hoping happens. We're banking on different ways to speculate on sports. And ultimately, I think that's going to be really important for the sports industry too. So, great news across the board. I thought the poker thing was interesting, and hopefully we'll keep getting more and more stuff like this.
Yeah, we never talked about it, but Nevada, New Jersey, Delaware have combined their player pools in legalized online poker, creating a pretty sizable player pool. If they can add Pennsylvania to that, which I assume that they will, they'll have a pretty reasonable player pool going forward to play legal online poker in the United States. So I think that'll gain some momentum for sure, and I'll for sure be playing. I like playing. I think like Six Max cash games online certainly got passed me by, for sure. But I think heads up sit and goes, I enjoy playing and think I can win at. And, just having fun and messing around in a poker tournament online from the comfort of my bed with Jerry with no clothes on is actually sounds appealing considering it's been so long since I did it.
I love how you throw in no clothes on, just, hinting at the skin to fur. And obviously, can you guys imagine locking your DFS lineups at 1 Eastern and then firing up a $60 million poker tournament too? I mean, that is living the dream right there.
Yeah.
Or at least our dream.
Yeah. All right. So good news there. Let's wrap it up with the Week 9 bets. In Week 8, me and Bales both went 2-1. Peter went 0-3. So me and Bales will chop up Peter's money there. You can track the standings. Bales, you can track the standings, the3donkeys.com, correct?
That's right.
All right, let's start with the Week 9 bets. I will give the honors to Peter since he went 0-3 last week.
Yeah, and I think I'm up anyways, you fucks. I mean, come on. I've been going second, last every time. I mean, let's be real. I'm going to go against the tickets here, and I'm going to take the Giants getting 3.5 at home against the Rams here. I think it's a good spot for a home dog. Getting 3.5 is also massive. They can lose by 3, which happens quite a bit. So I will take the Giants as my first pick.
Yeah, I like that. That was one of mine. I think I might have gone first last week, Levitan. So why don't you go ahead?
All right, I'm flustered. The Giants were obviously on my list. I'm going to go with the Panthers. I'll lay the 1.5 here. I know they just traded Calvin Benjamin. I don't know how big of a difference that makes. I just want to bet against the Falcons like all year, every week. I'm just like, where are the Falcons? Let me bet against them. Think I took a bit of a bad beat last week. I don't know if I had them on here, but Jets were winning the game in the fourth quarter, getting 6 and ended up pushing, I believe. So that was pretty brutal. But yeah, I want to keep just betting against the Falcons. I just think they're just not that good, especially compared to what they showed last year. And people think they're last year's team. So I will lay the 1.5 with the Panthers at home.
I will go Bucks +7 at New Orleans. We've talked about how good we think the Bucks are all year. I think that they've underachieved substantially, and I think that line should probably be 6.
Okay, I'm going to take the Cowboys as a 1-point dog. Really 1 point's pretty meaningless, but I like the Cowboys here at home. I know the Chiefs just played extremely well, but teams have really been able to eat up the Chiefs on offense when they play efficiently. The Broncos obviously are a mess, but I will take this Cowboys team here.
Yeah, it looks like no Ezekiel Elliott in that game, which is going to be obviously a blow to them. All right.
Is that for sure?
No, it's not for sure, but Schefter is saying that the 6-game ban will stand, so I don't know. It's up in the air right now for sure. We're recording this Tuesday night, but I believe it's going to start. The suspension will start this week.
That's frustrating. I saw something earlier that there's a chance that he could get like potentially one more game, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe.
All right, yeah. Donkey pick.
No, I don't think that's – I really don't think – I'm sure the line reflects it.
Sure.
Yeah, but the line already reflects it, I'm sure. All right, I will go with the over in the Washington-Seattle game, and I kind of think this is a donkey pick because everybody saw – Seattle and Houston just go absolutely ham last week. So everybody's like, oh, Seattle and Washington's going to go over 2, and this line hasn't moved from 45. But with the way Russ is playing and kind of the way that we expected Russ to play with their run game so inept, this is a team that is going to skew heavily towards the pass, and the Redskins already skew heavily towards the pass. So we have 2 pass-heavy teams, creates a lot of plays. So I will go with over 45 in the Redskins and Seahawks.
I will go under 51 for the Chiefs and Cowboys. That isn't a Zeke thing. I don't think that matters that much. I don't know how much he's worth. Vegas might be suggesting, or the market might be suggesting that he's worth a point. That's how much the Cowboys have moved from a pick'em to a point dog. But I think that's more that the Cowboys are going to run the ball in literally every situation that they can run the ball, first down, second and medium. And I think it's just going to be a slower paced game. So getting to 51, even if the defenses or the Cowboys defense stinks, is just going to be tough.
Okay. My last pick is interesting. I'm not really sure what to do with this. I don't feel great about it, but I'll take San Francisco at home, getting a couple points here, 2.5, I believe it is right now. 2 backup quarterbacks, both teams. I think Arizona obviously has some good players, but haven't been playing that well. San Francisco at home, maybe they'll be inspired with the Garoppolo trade. Garoppolo's not going to play, though, I believe, is what
Correct.
Still going to be.
Correct.
Is it going to be Beathard for sure?
Yep.
Okay, so again, riding Beathard, which is never fun, but I do think 2.5 points, not awful. I'll take another home dog.
All right, for my last pick, I will go with the under in the Colts and Texans game. I think, we've seen like massive price hike on Texans guys on DK. Like Deshaun Watson is 8,100. Will Fuller is like the 6th most expensive wide receiver on the main slate. Like we're getting out of control here with expectations for the Texans. I know they've been absolutely smashing, but that doesn't mean they'll necessarily continue to smash. And just 50 points is a lot for a game involving the Colts. So I will go under the 50 points there.
Last one, I will go Packers, Lions over 43. I think that what were you doing, Levitan? Is there a fly in there?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I can't deal with this. There's a fly in here.
Trying to make an argument. I just see you going crazy in the in the screen. I think that it's been 72% of bets, I believe, thus far have been on the over. The line hasn't moved. It's at 43, and I think that this is a situation where the Packers obviously didn't look good without Rodgers, but perhaps a short-term overreaction to that.
All right, that is going to do it for another episode of the Three Donkeys podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at Adam Levitan, Bales at Bales Football, Peter at CSU Ram 88. You can track results of our bets at the3donkeys.com. For Bales, for Peter, for Jerry, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.